The Steam Winter Sale has some glorious deals, and today we're talking strategy games, turn-based tactics, and tactical RPG games. I'm hoping to show you some hidden gems and a few rogue surprises along the way today, so sit back and relax. I've got you covered. Let's begin with, and hear me out here, Marvel's Midnight Suns, which I know maybe didn't have the greatest launch back 3 years ago, but at 85% off, around $9 US, I think that this tactical strategy RPG / DECK building game is actually a really brilliant package. I have some pluses and minuses. On the positive side, I think it genuinely has some of the best in class and most satisfying card-based tactical battles. Visually, they are awesome. Cards often act more like resources or weapons or charges, rather than strictly a card game. On the downside, I find some of the RPG world elements a little bit slow-paced at times, and the voice acting can be questionable here or there. Sometimes the RPG world is a little boring, but overall, it's a great strategy come RPG game, and if you didn't try it at launch because of its, sort of somewhat rough reception, now might be a great time. The next entry on my list, at an even lower price of just $8, we're going to see $8 a lot in this video actually, is Songs of Conquest. Songs of Conquest has been a game that I've been following for many years now. It is a turn-based strategy game. It's also an adventure game. You might get some Heroes vibes from this, and rightly so. The battles themselves are strategic, playing out on a wonderful, almost 4X game-like board, and then more broadly, you're managing kingdoms, growing, expanding, finding ways to make more money, and running into all sorts of characters, heroes, extra units. It's about building an economy on the side, in the broader world, and then these fights are just so satisfying to play. If you haven't played it yet, I would highly recommend you check this one out. There's a reason why it's close to the start of the video, and it's because a game that I've put quite a lot of time into, over, I think, quite a few years now. Moving along to a game that will surprise absolutely nobody, but I need to put it in here. This is XCOM 2. I would recommend you get the collection, largely because the one big main DLC pack is really good. The rest of them you probably don't need so much, but it's actually only a couple of extra dollars to round up from the already chump change that is required to get the base game to get the full DLC collection for XCOM. If somehow you've been sleeping under a rock for, get this, 10 years, I believe it released in November 2015, the base game, goodness me, it holds up well, because it really does. If you haven't played it yet, you absolutely should. Everybody needs to do one full playthrough of not just XCOM, but also War of the Chosen, the DLC pack. I reckon you'll easily get 100 hours. Tactical battles, a strategic overview there that is brilliant, and you can customize your dudes. Loads of fun. Let's step a little more into the RPG side of things. In fact, actually, we're just going to go full on, balls deep into Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Sorry, I couldn't resist making the joke, even though it's going to get me demonetized, but it was well worth it. A terribly long name, but a brilliant RPG game. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was actually recommended by quite a few of you on my 4X strategy game video. It didn't belong there. This is very much an RPG game. Also, of course, stunts, kind of strategic layers here, I suppose. But for the most part, this is an open-world medieval RPG. It released earlier this year, and it's one of the few games that manages to have overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam. So if you're looking for something hardcore into the RPG side, this is one for you. I have to be a little bit careful here though, don't I? Because all of a sudden now I'm going to need to start recommending Witcher 3. Baldur's Gate 3, which would maybe be a better fit for this video and does have a small discount this sale. If I'm not careful though, it's Mountain Blade Bannerlords. That one arguably makes more sense than this would. Granted, I hear you in the comments, I'm sorry, that is also a great game. But I do have to be careful, otherwise I'll be recommending you buy a 10th copy of Skyrim. So for now, let's round out the hardcore RPG side and move back towards that blend of strategy and RPG. Leaning, of course, more into the strategy where we can. Let's take a look at my final largely new entry and certainly expensive one on the list. At $39, just a 20% discount, you, my friend, could pick yourself up none other than Final Fantasy Tactics? Huh? That's right. It released actually not all that long ago at all. And this one, you'll be pleased to know, is firmly a turn-based strategy, turn-based tactics game. But Obviously, the Final Fantasy element, the RPG world. I mean, take a look at it. It has a really sweet aesthetic to it, obviously a remastered aesthetic to it here, clearly. Moreover though, every single character, basically, is fully voiced, including some of the more minor dudes in your party who you might not expect to really say a lot, and that helps you connect with them a little bit better. Party management matters a lot in these kind of games, particularly when they lean into RPG, and I think that Final Fantasy Tactics does a great job at that. Let's now lean a little further into the XCOM side of things. In fact, actually, let's go straight back to XCOM. This is the lesser known and more modern alternative to XCOM 2. XCOM Chimera Squad. 85% off just $3 US. And as you can imagine, that means that the base price already is not all that high. This game released what felt to me like a bit of a test run, or an extra project. It's not as fully fledged as XCOM 2, it's certainly not. If you need to pick one, please get XCOM 2. But it does bring through a lot of the core stuff that you would expect. It's arguably an easier entry point for somebody who maybe hasn't played really any strategy games at all, because it's a little bit more gentle, it's a little bit simpler. Frankly, some of you might say, it belongs on an iPad. Oh, look, I'll let you say that, because actually, to be honest with you, I had a lot of fun with it. I only ever did one playthrough. I liked some of the new stuff that it introduced. The main thing by far and away is probably how you enter a mission, going through that kind of tactical breach mode, planning where to deploy, having different entry points through windows or doors or what have you, and sort of swarming a place. That is something it does really well. Otherwise, it's, again, sort of a light version of XCOM 2, so take that as you will, whether that's its selling point, or maybe something that turns you off it. If it does, I've actually got another game about, shall we say, tactical breaching. It's Tactical Breach Wizards at 35% off. It brings it down to just a little bit over $10 US. And if you didn't manage to buy the Jingle Jam Games collection, you should absolutely consider picking up Tactical Breach Wizards in of its own right. The premise here is both very fun and very satisfying. As you might have gathered by the title, you are in charge of a team of Tactical Breach Wizards. So here we're doing turn-based tactics, almost puzzle-like, kind of reminds me of the mobile Hitman game, but this isn't a mobile game, that's not what I'm saying, it just sort of gives a similar vibe. Anyway, moving swiftly along from that terrible comparison, it's also quite a story-rich game. I won't spoil the main story, but it involves a conspiracy and wizards and turn-based tactical battles with a wonderful squad. Equipment, gear, abilities, you name it. The battles are very satisfying, the game itself is very satisfying, and as far as stories go for these kind of indie gem games, it's right up there. Genuinely. Well worth a look. Another, maybe broader franchise that is always well worth a look is Warhammer 40,000. I'm going to recommend to you Demon Hunters, because this was also in the Jingle Jam, and therefore I have some experience with this one. 80% off, very cheap to pick up. If you like turn-based tactics and you like the broader Warhammer universe and that Warhammer setting, I can easily recommend this to you. More broadly, though, there are actually many different options here within the broader franchise, so I'll chuck a couple more up on your screen. Maybe you might want to consider Rogue Trader, a little bit more expensive. On the cheaper side, of course, for just $2, you could find what I consider to be a pretty good entry point into turn-based tactics, strategy more broadly, in Warhammer 40,000. Our next entry is Jagged Alliance 3, which I think is a great strategy game that doesn't just moonlight as an RPG, but also delivers on some pretty core RPG elements more broadly. Here, as you can see, we're fighting in turn-based tactics, glorious combat at that. The broader setting is one of a nation that has been thrown into chaos. Basically a military coup, a paramilitary coup, in this case, takes over. The president is gone. Where has he gone? Well, thankfully, you and your band of mercenaries, some of them very unique, are going to try and find that out. You're tasked with not only fighting in these really fun turn-based tactics fights, but more broadly, exploring, expanding out through the somewhat open RPG world to try and get to the bottom of the broader story and find a solution to the problem of the nation in chaos. It's a really neat game. I slept on it a little bit when it first came out. I think roughly 2 years ago. I didn't try it until, in fact, about this time last year, during the last Steam sale. So if you'd like to follow in my footsteps, I can recommend it. If you like turn-based tactics, action strategy games, you should have good fun in Jagged Alliance 3. Next up, similar vibes, similar mechanics, but in this RPG open world, we're in a fairly large medieval universe instead. This is Wartales from Shadow Games. It released a couple of years ago in April 2023. I played it a bit then and I thought, yeah, this is a cool kind of blend between a turn-based strategy game where you bring together a party, maybe pick up more, maybe lose a few along the way, and explore a somewhat open RPG world. I've got my largely round-based, turn-based fights to fall back on when I'm not moving between settlements, right? A very cool vibe to it, and I think largely that still stands. At 60% off, it's just slightly over $10 if my New Zealand dollars are anything to go by anyway, and I think that presents really good value for money. The one thing that I can't speak to here at all is the DLC. There seems to be a lot of it. I swear since the last time I looked, it's just completely blown out. Maybe you could consider the starter edition, though it is quite a step up in price, about double. If, however, you like this game and you're looking for more content, good news for you, there is a lot to choose from, including running your own tavern, which brings kind of Skyrim house building vibes along too. Let's move along to the next entry in my list, and then we'll start to move into some rapid fire ones after this. But for now, it's Phoenix Point. $60, around $8. If you like XCOM, you'll probably like this. The grand view almost reminds me of Terra Invicta, but the grand strategy element in that game isn't really here. It's still certainly a strategy game, a turn-based tactics game, and one that is generally liked by people. It happens to also be created by at least one of the minds behind XCOM, so there's a common theme here. People describe it as a sort of spiritual successor to XCOM, having released 5 years after XCOM 2. It's certainly a more modern game. Basically, in a nutshell, if you're looking for an XCOM-like experience with some nice extra flavor and a fun game, you could try the demo, firstly, like some of the other titles in this list, or pick it up for about $8. Let's move on to my next entry. Here we have actually quite a special game. I have some rather fond memories of playing this, I swear, like probably 6 years ago at this point. At first I thought, this is strange, and once I settled in I thought, oh yeah, this is strange. This is Mutant Year Zero Road to Eden. It is a strategy come RPG game in a post-apocalyptic world where instead of having a band of, mercenaries, political activists, you have mutant, post-human, animal, hybrid-looking mutants. And if that's not enough to sell you on it, the turn-based tactics and the fights are really fun too. I think to sum it up, it's a game that absolutely does not take itself seriously. But it's also a very serious game. It's a good game. And, much like our next entry and previous one, it has a free demo on Steam too. Let's move along to a simulation game, and a different take on turn-based tactics than a lot of the other stuff we've already seen. A lot of that familiar formula goes out the window, because here we have what Steam describes as real-time with pause. I sort of liken this mech warfare a little bit to naval warfare. There is a kind of latency in the action, a forward-planning simultaneous movement. What will the outcome of this fight be? And that plays out in a really awesome way here in Phantom Brigade. I think they've mostly nailed the mechanics. Most of the theme, most of the AI, UI works well. It's not a perfect experience, but it's quite a different take on turn-based tactics, and that's why it makes it onto my list. If you were looking for some one more turn energy in this video, look no further than Nordhold. This is slightly different to some of the other games we've covered so far, probably best described as a strategy, roguelike game come tower defense. Of course, waves of enemies are coming. Your decisions here matter in a wonderfully roguelike way that I adore, and the map is made of hexagons as the enemies attempt to make their way toward you. It's an awesome little game, 35% off, a real indie gem, I couldn't not mention it, And I probably also shouldn't not mention my other favourite, maybe all-time favourite roguelike game. This is, of course, Slay the Spire. We are expecting Slay the Spire 2 in 2026. If you've been under a rock and you haven't picked up this DECK building roguelike strategy game, this will be the one for you. Now, I know what you're thinking. Hey, those last two weren't really turn-based tactics-y. We got quite roguelike toward the end. Yeah, we did. Some of the other games also have roguelike elements, though maybe not quite as much as these last two. But hopefully in this video I've canvassed tactical videos, strategy, action, adventure, certainly a fairly wide range of RPG games, and a little bit of a roguelike strategy for good measure. And, finally, because the comments are just truly out there, this is Dream Daddy, a dad dating simulator. It is, of course, 69% off. That one is for you, YouTube comments. Thank you for watching. This will wrap my coverage well and truly for the Steam Winter Sale this year. Because it's Christmas, and this is certainly an extra for experts part of the video, let's be real, very few people are watching me talk about Dream Daddy, a dad dating simulator. I thought I'd leave you with a couple of things that would usually be cut on the shop floor. I had a particular difficulty today getting started, getting in the flow of things. Not scripted, but here's a few goes of me trying to get started. Merry Christmas, everybody. I'll see you next time. The Steam Winter Sale has some glorious The Steam Winter Sale has some glorious deals, and today would glorious The theme